my house by myself.
Dave Senecal?
Dave Senecal, and I am alone.
Paul?
Good evening, Paul O'Brien. I'm in a room at my home by myself.
And Dave Bowers?
Dave Bowers, not far, Christy, not far away.
And I'm Brad Harriman. I'm at home in a room by myself this evening. Mr. Pinio, do we have a need for a non-public this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. This evening, we do not have a need for non-public.
All right, thank you. So the first item on our agenda is going to be, under old business, is going to be Pop Whale and Ice Area Arena probably update. Christine, are you going to lead us off with our discussion here on this one?
Yes, so I have submitted a proposal for the selectmen to look at. We have been back and forth with the proposal. Since the last time we met, we've had a couple of governor's phone calls. A new order came in place. The rink was shut down until October 30th. And then something else came in effect that we were required to test before we could, well, essentially we could open, but people had to have tests in by November 6th. Actually, right before the meeting, I got another email that said, if you weren't already playing or already in a program on the ice, you actually were not required to have a test. But if you were already playing, you would be required to have a test and submit that before entering the building. The proposal you have before you is pretty similar to what we have been discussing. The only additions to it, I would say, are the testing protocol, which now will change slightly based on the governor's orders, and the masks on the ice. Governor's orders are suggesting it should happen to have a mask on the ice when practicing. We had in our proposal must, so we're asking for clarification from the board of what direction we want to go in. The other thing we added, we did put shields in there versus just having masks, so that was an option that was added. And I think everything else was up to par because we did already separate the bench out, so they have the option of wearing a face mask on the bench, or they could be social distance. We already made spots for bags to be social distance with the people. We have already have the locker rooms social distance, and we have marked those areas out along with the other areas of the rink. So I think everything else is in line with the governor's orders. I think there's just a discrepancy with, I believe it's number 10 in your packet about training on the ice.
Mr. Town Manager, can I ask Christine a question, please?
Certainly, Paul.
Christine, what's this nuance if you were in a program or not in a program? But what, I don't get it.
So this just came today. So when we were in the governor's call the other day, I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before, I'm sorry. The question was, we already have some hockey organizations that are playing hockey or using the ice. The question came if, because you needed to have a test prior to November 6th, that means anybody starting after November 6th, were they required to have a test? And then we got clarification that said, if you had not been already playing prior to October 30th, then you would not be required to have a test in order to come into the building.
So let's go one by one. Are there any organizations that you know of that we have attending our ice facility that are required to have a test?
There is one, I believe one team of the Back Bay Youth Hockey was playing prior to October 30th. However, that team actually has already been tested because of a COVID incident. So I believe they are good to go as of now.
And when you say good to go, does that mean that they have to demonstrate to you with some type of certification that they have been tested?
Yes, so they would, well, basically, in the governor's orders, they would have to show their testing certificates to the program. And as a facility, we are requiring the program or the owners of that program to sign off on a letter that says we have indeed received negative COVID test or they have been tested. The only exemption was if you had COVID prior in the past 3 months, then you were exempt from the test. That was the only exception.
Does
So we
Brewster
did, I
County
believe,
have to be tested?
I would say yes, because they started their program, but I think they do test already, but that would be something I did send the protocols out to them as well. So all users have been notified of this. I did contact a couple of the users today, which includes Curling and She-Wolves, which have not been on the ice yet. So they are now aware of the protocols.
The reason I'm asking is I'm sure the question of people watching this are going to be, do I or do I not need to be tested? And I think it might be useful to get something out there that says you must be, you must not, you don't have to. Otherwise, confusion reigns supreme.
Right. Understand.
So I guess the
Board members,
question,
Go ahead, Linda.
I guess the question you're asking us is, I guess it's also on, is on number 10, whether that should be, should or shall, or should.
Should or must, right?
Must.
So, and my feeling is that we should go to must. And if, when these things were first written out, the governor had that required. And after a lot of talking with the different teams,
I can't hear.
We lost you, Linda.
Yeah.
they decided to make it feeling that we should.
Yeah, you cut out on us again,
And so
Linda.
the feeling is to do what's the safest with the outbreak. There was just an outbreak in Laconia, there were 10 players in Laconia. So I would, who got COVID, I would say must would be what we.
I think we kind of, you broke up a lot of that, Linda, but we did get the idea that you're in favor of having the must stay in the item number 10 here for the requirement of wearing cloth masks. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Dave or Dave?
And face shield.
Must or a face shield? Either a mask or a face shield, take your pick, but it's a must.
I think we also have to do that in number 11.
Okay.
I think the second line down needs to be must at the end.
Yeah, I think I agree. And looking at that also, my comment would be on number 10. Because number 10 reads, must wear cloth face coverings, masks when practicing or on the sidelines. So we should match the verbiage there, because number 11 says would be changed to must require masks or face shields. So I think we should have masks or face shields be the same, both number 10 and 11. Does that make sense?
Correct.
I've seen a lot of
Okay.
heads nodding.
And you're saying for number 11, even if they can social distance, we still want them to wear a mask?
Or face shield.
That
Mask
is
or
the-
face shield.
Or a face shield,
Mask
yeah.
or face shield. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm in favor of that also. So I think, Paul, myself, and Linda are, and Dave, if you guys want to weigh in on your thoughts on that.
No, that
Fine
makes
with me.
sense to me.
How about the town manager? How does he feel?
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. I think the other thing that we got to be cognizant of, these orders are ever changing, making it challenging for Christine, making it challenging for the teams trying to play. And I don't think that's done. I got a feeling that probably more of this is going to continue. And I got to commend Christine for staying on top of it. But I think this makes some sense.
Does
Brett?
anybody think it would be worth having in the very beginning of this protocol a statement to that effect, of saying, this document will be basically like a living document, and it would be apt to changes at any time pending the governor's orders?
Yep, that's what I was going to suggest as part of the protocol. Because it just changed today, so what's going to say it's
Right.
going to not
Yeah.
change tonight?
I think it actually does say that right in the first paragraph there on the front page, that it will continue to change as we get new guidelines and recommendations.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, it does.
I think Dave Senecal was right, Mr. Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Linda.
Oh, go
I
ahead,
just want to thank
Linda.
Christine. Yeah, I would just like to thank Christine and her staff for the number of drafts that she had to come up with. And as soon as you think you have it, either the governor or one of the selectmen have another idea. And I really want to thank them for all their hard work putting this document together.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a good team. It has been challenging.
Okay, any other comments? Oh, Paul, go ahead.
I'm going to second Linda's comment. I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth emails by, I think, concerned people who are trying to, make sure the kids and adults get on the ice safely. I think Christine and Justin have done a great job. Some of the emails, not only here, but other parts in the state and in other states, are fairly acrimonious, not required. We're trying to do the right thing for the children. We're trying to do the right thing for everybody. So I got it. I mean, I shared something yesterday that the state of Massachusetts is going through the same thing. 200 people are suspected to have been exposed. 166 people already have been exposed and are showing signs. Tournaments are taking place, people at Sunrise. I mean, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on here because everybody wants to get back to normal. And I got that. But this isn't normal. And so I commend Christine and Justin for putting up with a lot of thought leadership from a lot of different people. But I think it's up to us and the town manager to kind of step in here and kind of square this circle a little bit. So I say must. I think we're going to do a good job on social distancing, even if they're on the bench. I think Jim and I and Linda and Christine weighed in today about practice. Should we not have masks during practice? I think Jim made a good point that, sometimes there's more people on the ice during practice than there are during games. Remember, it only takes 2 people to get you infected. The guy who has it, or the person who has it, the person who gets it. So I think we're doing the right thing. It's tough, but I think we're doing the right thing for everybody concerned. Thank you, Brad, for hearing me out.
Yep, you're welcome. Would somebody like to make a motion to the effect of regarding adopting? I think we should have a motion to.
I'll move to adopt the protocol set forth tonight by Christine Collins.
With the amendments?
With the amendments that we talked about at 10 and 11?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to adopt these protocols as amended here. Any other discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave Senecal?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
And Brad Harriman votes yes also. Again, yeah, Christine, thank you, and and Justin also for all the work you guys have put into this, and even Mr. Pinio too, on his end of overseeing a lot of this, so I think we got to where we need to be, and let's hope it all works. Anything else for us, Christine, or is that pretty much cover what we need to for Pop Whalen?
I think that's it for Pop Whalen.
Okay. Now we'll move into our new business, our budget hearing review, and first on our agenda is Parks and Rec for revisit. So,
I think there's a hand up, Brad.
oh, yes, Linda. Sorry.
And I'd like to ask Jim, what are we doing the assessing budget tonight? I've had about 4 or 5 different agendas, so I'm having a hard time figuring out what we are and aren't doing.
Yes, Linda, we are not doing the assessing tonight. Reason being, the contract has got to be approved by this board. That has been on the agenda scheduled for November 4th. So my thought is that we do the budget review of the assessing budget on the evening of November 4th, which is your regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to button everything up that evening. Tomorrow night is going to be a agenda, and so that's kind of what our thought process.
Okay. So,
I just was checking my book. Then I have some discrepancies between what is printed and what is the backup information. Do you want us to send them to you, or do you want to go over tonight and pick them up? Because I don't want to leave until November 4th.
Okay, is that the assessing budget you're still talking of?
Assessing, yes. The backup sheets we got today do not match what we had in the book.
Okay, I have a copy of that. I'll dive into it and look at it.
Okay.
okay, so. Trying to find like I said, we've got so many different things here, trying to find the items we're looking at for Christine for revisit here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So Christine's got a revisit. I believe the first and the major revisit that she has got is the motor house. Is that correct, Christine?
That's for the, yeah. That's for the capital outlay, right?
Christine, you're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, yes, it was, change it from necessary to urgent is what I submitted.
Okay. Other than that, everything else is the same on it?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we are also actively working on the discussions and the update of the language relative to what wasn't spent as a result of COVID-19, you know, with programs and beaches and that type of stuff. So that will all be set for the rollover for the budget committee.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could we ask anybody who's not speaking to close their mic, please?
Yeah, we are getting a lot of feedback from somebody here. Okay. Whoop. I
There
don't know
it
where
is.
that one's coming. Not sure where that one was coming from, but
Dave Bowers.
okay. All right, so do we have any questions or anything on the capital outlay for the motor house up there at the Abenaki ski area?
Certainly is needed.
Yes. Okay, so we'll move on. Do we have hockey rink?
Should be the health officer revisit right now, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Okay. Oh,
I
wait,
thought I had
Christine, yes?
I thought I had two more things.
Oh. Go ahead, Christine.
So the other thing was, we were questioning the Clark House program budget. And I think there was a letter attached from the Historical Society.
Yes, there should be a letter attached in your package dated
It was.
August 21st, relative to explaining the expense associated with the Clark Complex.
Let's see.
Yes, it was in our packet.
So I will say, this year was new because American Legion actually submits a request every year. And I had asked the Historical Society if they could do the same because we had just put program money in there, but they had never submitted what it was for. So I think moving forward, it will be beneficial. They did put in for 2021, I believe the same amount. I think we did not open the Clark House this year, but I don't think it was clear to the Historical Society that perhaps by not opening the Clark House, we probably shouldn't expend that money. So I think moving forward, just clear guidelines on expectations. And I'm not sure with the finances is we're just giving them one lump sum. I don't know if the answer is, do they then submit bills to us and I pay them on my manifest, or how we want to handle that. But it's something that we should consider. I know that for the American Legion, it's very detailed on what they're getting with that. So I don't know what the board wants to do with it, but I do think there needs to be a little bit more clear guidelines for them to follow. So we're all on the same page and we're doing things the same for everyone.
Yeah, to me, that kind of makes sense to have it kind of come through you, Christine. That way it gets tracked a little bit better, in my thought process anyway. So, Linda, did you have a comment on that?
I agree. I think we should have consistency, and I think we should ask the same of both organizations. So I agree with Christine.
Okay, so we will do that moving forward then, and I will let them know.
Okay. All right, that sounds good.
And then I think the last thing on my item was the Pop Whalen, just where we were for revenues.
Okay.
And I believe that's in your packet as well. Yep.
Oh, yeah, the
So-
revenue comparison.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Christine.
I was just gonna say, I did go through my budget today, well, not my budget, I'm sorry, my ICE time today to kind of, with COVID going on and with the protocols changing every day and restrictions, it is making people either not want to participate or limited participation. Based on what I have in the system for ICE time, projected revenue would be $42,475 for ICE rentals. That being said, right now curling has pulled out for their first session, where I'm still waiting for confirmation on other ones. So that's just what I have that was committed to before new protocols and guidelines were in place. So I will keep you updated on that. And I did not account for any season passes or any daily skates because we're still working on that. And the reason being is we actually had training this week for switching over to a new system, which is called Rec Desk for online. It's an online portal, but it has the capability for membership, reservations, and that's what we're looking to for the safety of the patrons in order to do Abenaki or Pop Whalen. So we're hoping we have training scheduled for the next few weeks. So we're hoping by November 25th, we'll have everything in place for that. We can still utilize our system for the ice arena for skating. So we think we'll be able to get it up and running, but we are going to be switching over completely by December 31st to Rec Desk. And most likely November 25th, we will be on the whole new system.
Okay, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, do you expect that between now and the time we put an $850,000 warrant article in front of the voters that we're going to get an enterprise review of Pop Whalen? Kind of look at the whole fund, the
It's
whole
possible
enterprise.
to occur. I don't think we're going to be able to make that occur.
Thank you.
Just based on timing.
Brad,
Yes, Linda.
what I'd like you to do is take a look at, we got two sheets. One of the revenue sheets gave you 2018 and then 2019, and then you see 2020. There's a large discrepancy on miscellaneous rink fees. And we need to figure out what's happening there. I don't know whether when the audit comes back, something here, that some of the money that's in the 2020 really belongs back in 19, but just looking at it, you say, whoa, something isn't right on how we're allocating here. So I'd like to try to see that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You should definitely take a good look at that.
Yes, I will comment on that. Typically, the end of the season, we bill in January, so we receive that revenue in the following year. It does need to be switched over by the finance department, and I thought it was already done. I'm sorry about that, but I had given, at least the auditors had a list of what was received in 2020 that actually belonged to 2019. So I have been in contact with them and have told them that already. So maybe we just have to.
That may come as an audit adjustment. So then the figures for 2020 aren't going to be right because some of them are pulled back. And
Right.
We talked about trying to find a system here where we can better allocate what's going into which year. So I think these sheets show us that we aren't there yet.
Yep. Okay, anything else on the on Parks and Rec for our revisit list here?
That was all on my list, so
Happy anniversary.
Okay.
thank you.
Yes. All right, thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Okay. And next, we will move on to the health officer revisit.
So, Mr. Chairman, I believe the board received an updated budget relative to this, which reflected Shelley Rondo's request for an increase in salary. That is in the 113 line at $45 a week for 52 weeks, representing $2,340. So that is here. I believe you have a letter backing that up at Ms. Rondo's request. With that said, I'll hand it over to you to ask any questions you may have of Shelley.
Okay. Board members have any questions? Paul?
Hi, Shelley. Thanks for updating the budget. Thanks for updating the request. My question to you is how much of the work activity has been driven by this COVID thing we're all dealing with. Is that what's caused your hours to go up?
So yes, that has, but also my hours have gone up over the last 5 years. I mean, obviously the hours this year have gone excessively up. I mean, I do a lot of behind the scenes work that nobody sees. I mean, I have had several weekends that I've had to do stuff, you know, obviously for COVID right now, you know, but the things, and nothing breaks loose until Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. I also spent a lot of time.
We plan it that way.
Yeah, I also spent a lot of time on webinars and stuff with the state that nobody sees. I mean, you know, that, you know, requires a lot of me pulling time out from my regular job to do this job. You know, fortunately, a lot of the things happen at night, so it doesn't interfere with my other job. But I do feel that I have put in a lot of more time, and I don't see this going away. I don't see that we're going to get back to normal for a long time.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. If this is a spike because of this novel virus that we have, you know, when the spike goes down, when you get back to normal, and you're saying normal will be at a higher working rate, right?
I feel that, you know, you have a RN here with a bachelor's degree with public health knowledge. You have an advantage that most towns don't. And for that, I feel like I need to be reimbursed.
Thank you.
Linda?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Shelley. I was surprised that we were only paying her $19.23 a week last year, if I read this book right. And I think that's her skills and her background that was pittance. And to go to 45 per week, I think is a deal. And I agree that we should keep on moving her over the next couple of weeks. I believe we're lucky to have somebody with the knowledge and skill set that Shelley has and was able to step in and answer all sorts of questions when we were dealing with COVID.
I completely agree with you, with both of you on that. So, any other questions or comments? Okay, so I think we have, that was the only question we had for revisit with Shelley's budget, correct? All right. Any other questions for us, Shelley, or you all set now?
I think I'm all set. So,
Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, night.
Okay, next on our agenda is the EDC. I see you have Kathy here with us.
So I guess I gotta move.
There you go,
Evening.
Christine. Leave that mic.
So here we got, this is we're into our regular budgets here now. We're done with our revisits for this evening, correct? Okay.
And I'll just tie a couple up at the end of the meeting, but no. we can-
Item number H. Okay. So do you have anything you want to say at the beginning, Kathy? Or you want us just to jump in and go through our line items?
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to discuss them if you want to discuss them on a line item basis. And this has been, of course, an unusual year. We are not going to expend all of our funds. We decided that, well, we're not going to go out and spend the money because it's there. We pulled hard back on our advertising because we felt that it just wasn't appropriate to use some in these times, not knowing what was going to happen. We just didn't do early advertising at all. We did some for the fall and a little bit over the winter, but again, it just made sense to hold it back, but that doesn't mean we don't hope to expend it next year. It was strictly a reaction to the COVID, but I'd like to, kind of talk about them as you go through them.
Okay.
And I'll have something to say about probably most of them. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll go through them line by line. If we have any questions, we'll ask you and go from there. We'll start off with the 100 series.
So the
Brad?
part wages, yeah. Oh, okay.
No, go ahead, Kathy, and then I'll make my comment.
So, well, we didn't have a secretary to take our minutes this year. This has been a problem for the EDC over a number of years. We always have extra money here, but we're doing something about that. Thank you very much for doing the advertising, and we understand, we're optimistic that we'll have somebody going forward. So we will certainly hope that we'll expend some of that this year. We'd like to keep it the same for next year. I'm even hopeful that we'll be able to maybe use that person when they come on to help us get caught up and get our page of the website information updated. I don't know whether just there, but making sure all our minutes and get housekeeping in order. We've had a changeover in the chairman and in membership, and so we got some catch up to do that a secretarial person will help us with. So we may expend some of that money this year. We certainly hope that we'll be able to have our minutes take some of the load off of Amy there and be able to get them out in the 5-day time period that we're supposed to. So, but we should keep that in for another year because we expect to have a staff person to do that next year.
Okay. Linda, did you have your question?
I would like a note underneath there stating for the budget committee that this committee's was unable to have a secretary because the town didn't have one, and that we're in the process of hiring one for the coming year. And I think should be there because I think that's important.
Yep. Paul?
Yeah, Linda answered my question. I mean, despite all the good words, Kathy, the answer is you haven't spent any money. And the reason being is you couldn't get a secretary or a recording person. So I think there should be a notation because this is going to draw the attention appropriately of the budget committee.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 200 series.
All related to that secretarial position.
Yep. 300 series.
Okay, the item under consultants for $15.99. That's something we put in, had hoped to do this year. That is a little bit of money. We were hoping to be able to get a visitor survey, and we had used in keeping our budget from one year to the next, not having it go up. That's money that we had from consulting in past years for a project, the Business Retention and Expansion Program. But this particular hope was that we would be able to do a visitor survey, and that was really driven by looking for information to help grants for the Libby Museum. Obviously, that didn't happen this year again, but the realistic fact is Matt has assured us that that's not a realistic figure to think we're going to be able to get a proper survey that will help with applications for grants, and not just for the Libby, but for anything else. It's a tool that we should have in our box when we're looking at economic growth and economic development. Basically, we're talking about how many visitors do we have to Wolfeboro, but it's a very difficult thing to know how you're going to do that. So what the committee has done, you'll see a notation here, that we move that money to advertising, and I'd like to explain why when we get to that line item. But it really isn't so much a tourism survey as a visitor survey. We realize that this is a really important thing that the town should have, but we don't know what it's going to cost and how you go about it. So the feeling of the Economic Development Committee was that we wouldn't put any money in the budget for that for 21, and instead we would go with a request for proposal and find out what something like that was going to cost in anticipation of maybe bringing it forward in 2022. So that's why you see that that has been reduced, and to note that we've moved it someplace else, and I'll discuss the reason why when we get to that line item. If that works for you guys, you can ask me now. Yes?
Oh,
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Kathy. And I'm sure that the Office of Strategic Initiatives of the state is just flush with all kinds of research that you can tap into as well. So that's just a hint, okay? Because Taylor Caswell, who's our economic development leader, I guess, at the state, Jeb and John McDonald have a very close relationship with this person. Maybe they can help too. I would tap into those resources. Anything we can do to save a couple of bucks if somebody else is spending the money would be a good thing to do.
Exactly. And you know, one of the ways that we may be able to do that is simple, and I don't know what the cost is, but I can't imagine it's an awful lot, is just getting a car count in the different seasons in terms of, it was suggested by Matt that would be one way, when you know the number of vehicles coming into town in July versus March, you've got some kind of a feel. You know, we all have anecdotal information. We know there's more people here in the summertime than there are others, but that doesn't do any good when you're trying to get data that's going to help with, especially grant applications. You know, that's what that comes back to. But also for planning purposes, it's something that it's information the town should have in looking at whatever its planning is for economic development. And those are all great resources, Paul. And we're also hopeful, of course, that when we get our new planning and economic development director in place, you know, that's the sort of thing that we'll be turning to that person for guidance as well. But those are great resources. Thank you.
Thank you. 500 series.
So
I had a question on the 380 line, please.
Okay.
Where does one get a copy of the community calendar?
So this particular subject,
why don't you just send it so we can attach it to this meeting's minutes? Just send it out.
I don't have that. That's the Chamber of Commerce, and that is a subject that the Chamber of Commerce has brought to you forward. So we are not, the Economic Development Committee is not here to, really can't speak and represent on the calendar of events. At the present time, that is in the realm of the Chamber of Commerce. And
They're here.
I think, is Mary here?
I think so. CC, the mic just came on.
Okay, there, it's Mary.
Brad,
Yes. Hi, Mary.
this is Mary. CC is Mary DeVries, and I am available to answer any questions both on behalf of the community calendar of events and also as an alternate member now and a member of the marketing committee of the town's economic development committee.
Hi, Mary, this is Paul.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. All I was asking is, could we just get a copy of the community calendar attached to the minutes of this meeting so that people can see what it is?
Absolutely, I will do that. There's a printed calendar. We also have an online calendar that we have established. So I will make sure you have that. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. I think, you know, what I hear is, what is it? Where can I get access to it? So if you've got a hard copy and a web copy, let's just get it out there and then we can cut that question off pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Linda?
We should have it put into this budget book, not just attached to our minutes. We want it in this budget book.
That's right.
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
Again, it's a big number and it's a great community resource, or the EDC and the chamber wouldn't be asking for $6,000 for it. So I think the budget committee should be given the benefit of seeing what a terrific resource this is.
I will send that to Amy Muccio.
Yep. All right, thank you, Mary. Anything else on the 300 series? 500 series.
So the dues and subscriptions, you'll see we've expended $648 this year, which is more than we were supposed to. And that is because for some reason, the 2019 membership with the Lakes Region Tourism Association ended up in this year's budget. So it ended up being paid twice. Ironically, we didn't budget anything in the EDC budget for that this year. So the other $299 for this year was actually the amount to be expended by the Parks and Recreation Department. So a little background here. We had two memberships last year. in the last couple of years. The Parks and Rec would have one, and Lakes Region Tourism Association and the EDC had a second one. Last year, the EDC said that doesn't make sense. We really don't need two memberships. So we eliminated it from our budget. Then when it came around time for the where to in the Lakes Region and the online, all the exposure that we get through the Lakes Region Tourism Association, we realized that we had made a big mistake, that we are getting for that $299, basically in each case, 3 different exposures in that book. So we're talking about the Recreation Department, we're talking about our museums, we're talking about the town of Wolfeboro, we're talking about our beaches and our water. There's a whole series of things. So Amy Landers explained that, and of course it was that conversation with her happened exactly before the COVID thing kind of shut everything down. So we missed out on some very important promotional, and that group goes to not just the state, but they're part of Discover New England, and it goes out nationally and internationally. So we made a mistake there and feel it's important that we have that back on the economic development side, as well as on the recreation department side. So that's why we want to put this back in our budget for this year. But as it is, we have did not spend quite a lot of our money. So we're happy to have paid for that for the rec department for this year. But anyway, there's a little bit of a mix up there. I wanted you to know the background on it. So, and the other subscription is, I believe, now I'm drawing a blank on that, but it's dues to something else. Mary, do you know what it is? The other dues that we have? It's to something else within the New Hampshire Economic Development.
New Hampshire Business Review?
Yeah, no, they give us a free paper because that's what they do. But New Hampshire Economic Development Association or something like that. There's another dues that we participate in there. So that's why the total is $381. So we think that's important to have that back in there. It's well worth it. What we're getting is a real bargain for that money.
All right, thank you. Anything else on 500 series? 600 series?
Wait a minute, on the advertising, I'd like to talk about that. That's still under the 500 series, 560.
Oh, yep.
So that's
562,
yep. Yep, that the economic development, and you'll see that we're going, well, we're increasing that line item by the $15.99. Now, the reason is that obviously the visitor survey isn't falling off, but we're just not going to spend any money on it next year. We anticipate, we don't know what it's going to be, but we anticipate that the recovery for the economic welfare of our town could include just about anything happening in the next year as a result of course, the pandemic. So we felt this was a helpful place to put that money, not knowing exactly what might happen. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that we've been very active in trying to establish a social media plan. Having more presence on the web and in social media is something that has been a priority, as we're really charged with us by both the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee, saying we need more out there, and we do, no question about that. So we actually have a plan that we've reviewed. We're not ready to bring it to the Board of Selectmen quite yet, except that yesterday we did vote to recommend that the Board of Selectmen establish a committee to review the communications, what do I want to say, overall for the town. So not just social media, but what we're doing online and on the web. We've come in working towards this social media plan, we've come to understand several factors. For instance, that IT, and right now we have 10 hours a week, one person 10 hours a week designated to handle the IT for the town. And that's, part of our communications or marketing situation. We realize that IT is separate from content, so that the person who's looking after perhaps setting up the meetings. I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of time going into organizing and overseeing these virtual meetings that we're having. That's very different from knowing what would be posted on a Facebook page. Right now, almost nothing is posted on the quote Town of Wolfeboro's Facebook page, although many departments have their separate pages. So just to jump back a little bit too, Jim pointed out that we actually have a committee called the Information Systems Advisory Committee already, and he suggested that perhaps that's the vehicle we could use to get an overview of what we are doing in the various different departments. So, you know, right off the bat, I know that we have, you know, the electric department's got a Facebook page to deal with things like outages. The police department has a Facebook page to deal with the issues they need to. The recreation department is very active in promoting in social media with what they're doing. The EDC has a special events committee that has a Facebook page helping out with their big event, of course, is last night. But it seems like that might be appropriate for somebody to be coordinating this on a town-wide basis. And our feeling is that the town should have overall one face. And that's what we're suggesting. But what we're really suggesting is let's gather all information and see what we are doing. I think that we're underutilizing. Our website is not necessarily being kept up to date. We can all see things there and it's a matter of time where that person's going to come from, where the money's going to come from to do this. We don't know, but it seems like it's a town-wide issue, subject that to be brought to your attention. It seems we can think of other things, for instance, the town clerk and civics outreach to educate our town, to get more people involved in participating in our government. There's so many places to do that. The planning board, the Department of Public Works. So just standing back and looking at it, as we're trying to work forward with a social media plan for economic development in Wolfeboro, we're realizing there's a lot more to it. So we think that it's something that we wanted to bring to your attention, and you'll hear more about it from us, and I'm sure from Jim and Linda were both part of that meeting yesterday. So that was, so some of this money for marketing, you know, in our system with the town, it's called advertising, but it's really marketing, that some of this money may go towards something like that. Perhaps some of this money should be going to a person who would be working on the posting that we would do. So to encourage economic development in several different areas, not just, you know, tourism is only one. There's other things that are important in this town. And, you know, what's going to happen this coming year, we don't know, but we feel that that's where it should stay. So we're asking that it remain in the budget, and we're putting it under that line item for now.
Thank you, Kathy. Paul?
Thank you, Brad. Just a simple question. Line 562, the 2020 appropriation was $4,500. It says move 1599 to the consultant line. My question is the 2021 appropriation $4,500 or is it $6,099?
We're asking that it be $6,099.
Please correct the document.
I have it, Paul. That's on us.
That's all.
Mine-
in that way, so.
All I want to do is just correct the document. That's it. Thank you.
Paul, there was a new one that came out today with it correct.
Well, I'm looking at the one that was dated 10/28 at 12:09. Is that the new one?
I'm looking at it live in MuniSmart right now, and it is $4,500, so I will change it to $6,099.
Yeah, unless one came out after 12:09 today. So, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Just
I
tie it
got
up. That's all.
I got one yesterday, which was correct.
Yeah, that's the one I had. Was yesterday.
27th, mine's correct.
So the older it gets, the worse it gets. That's
Yeah,
good. I like.
Way right now, the newer it gets, the worse it gets. Well, that seems to be in the news a little bit, right?
Okay, anything else on the 500 series? 600 series? And
need it.
800 series?
We may not spend it, but don't take it out.
Yep. Like $50 we could leave in there for supplies.
Yep.
800 series.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere this year, but we'd like to be able to go to some of these things that Taylor has and all of that, but
Yep.
maybe this year.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I think that takes care of the economic development budget here. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us, and
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Take care. Good luck. Thanks for all the hard work you folks do.
thank you.
Good night.
Night.
So next on our agenda is Conservation Commission.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody. Good evening.
Hi, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thanks. I think everybody here knows me, but in case I missed someone, I'm Lenore Clark. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. So I am here to speak to our budget proposal for 2021 and answer any questions you might have. I don't know if Jim would have seen this because I don't think I sent the email until we were done with our meeting that we had earlier. So at about 4:15, I sent him an email to ask to be made a presenter because I put together a very brief slideshow for you folks. I don't know if Jim saw that, and if I haven't been made a presenter now, it might be too late.
So Jim, I probably haven't been keeping up to date with the flurry of emails. I don't have a budget. Oh, I don't have a budget, or is this the budget right now?
Does anybody else have the conservation budget?
I have it in my book.
Maybe me, Jim. I have been tardy with.
I have it in my book.
Okay, so it's me. So I'm not going to comment on it. Thank you.
Okay, so Lenore, did you want to go through this presentation first before we go into your budget, or?
We can go, no, that's okay. We can go through the budget first. I'm sure as you go through it line by line, you'll probably see something that stands out at you, and that's when I'll kick in the presentation.
Okay.
Not
So
to
we'll
be
start
too
off with the 100. We'll start off with the 100 series. $200 series. $300 series. $400 series. And I'm assuming the 491 is what you were just referring to, Lenore.
Yes, it is, exactly. You got it. And we have two different line items in that 400 series that we are requesting increases on. But you're right, yes, obviously the big ticket item is the invasive species management. I'm not sure how many of you folks have been out to Front Bay Park recently or to our town garden property, but we have a rather significant invasive species issue going on at those properties. And the one that is most obvious probably is the invasive bittersweet, which is the one that wraps around trees, and you can see it creates what's kind of almost like a viney appearance. Let me see if I can share. However, there's actually
called kudzu.
I am not sure if that's what's actually kudzu. That's a great question. I am not sure.
That's what I call it when I see it. Might be wrong.
You might be right, Paul. All right, I'm gonna turn on this. Now I can no longer see you folks, but is this working? Can you see my first slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm actually going to skip ahead. These photos were just taken last month out at the Front Bay Park property. So you can see how young saplings are starting to be pulled down, and it's got that sort of jungle appearance. That's how I refer to it. And so this is all just taken recently. Here's a tree that has a rather thick old vine circling up it, and that causes extra weight, which, I'm not saying that's the only reason that tree came down. Maybe that tree would have come down anyway, but the extra weight does not help, and it does make the trees more susceptible to damage from ice and wind. And this is what it can look like. This is not from Front Bay Park. This is a picture just taken straight off the web. But this is kind of where we're headed. This is what it could turn into if we don't get a handle on it quickly. It also presents, now we don't allow, to my knowledge, we don't allow hunting on either of these particular properties, but that was an example that was given on the web as an actual human impact that can happen from this, where it's really difficult for hunters to walk through a forest once it becomes completely entangled. So we are requesting an extra line item in our budget now. Let me see if I can quit out of this. In the amount of $10,000 to start to get a handle on this problem. And I have been in contact with a gentleman named Lee Gilman out of Amherst, who is a professional who deals with this. And the Conservation Commission just met today and voted to approve having him come out and walk the properties with me to give me a more actual, an estimate or a quote. Although he tends to approach it from a goals standpoint. He likes to know ahead of time, is our goal 100% eradication, 85% eradication, et cetera. But at this point, we believe we can get him out to walk with the properties with us on November 7th. So we understand that this is a huge ask, and we are okay if you folks would care to revisit that particular line item in the future. Our budget committee meeting is not until December 17th, I think it was. So we just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Fred?
Yeah, Linda.
Yeah, I would support us going after this invasive species on land. We're fighting constantly with milfoil in our waters, and it's a lot easier to get it before it gets out of control. And Back Bay was out of control with milfoil. And so I would support this and to send it on to the budget committee. I think having an accurate quote would be great, in the hopes that they'll leave it in. And I would support that and getting the backup document for it.
Yeah, Paul?
Thanks, Lenore. I apologize. It's probably my bad for not finding the documents. I was going along really well with you until I heard the start to get our arms around it issue, $10,000. If we can, as Linda said, if we can get a little more texture around the outcomes that get generated by spending $10,000, I'm all for it. If it is, more plan than do, I'm not all for it. So, you're going to have this person come out and start to walk around. I would think that the voters, all of us, want to see do-centric spending, not plan-centric spending.
Oh,
I agree with
absolutely.
Linda. I mean, we got to get we got to get in front of this stuff quickly before it gets really ugly. But I'm a real big believer of outcomes. What outcomes will we get if we spend $10,000? And if it's just a plan.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't really clear on that. The $10,000 is not, we're not asking for that for planning. We are asking for that for doing. We have some money left in our consultant's line item that we could be using just to bring the gentleman out here to walk the properties with us. But no, we fully anticipate.
The budget committee is going to ask the same question. What do I get for $10,000? Right?
Absolutely. And also, just as a quick point of reference, the Conservation Commission has already spent $15,000 on invasive species removal. So we've already done it, and as you can see, it's still an issue. It will be an ongoing issue, unfortunately. That's just Linda knows that's the devil that we're dealing with.
The way it works with milfoil, water quality, and this kind of stuff, right? Thank you.
Exactly.
Okay, any other questions in the 400 series? And then we'll go on to 500 series. $600 series. $800 series. Okay. What's the board think about having a revisit on that line item for the invasive species? Think that'd be worth us, so we could have more information once Lenore has that consultant come out and look it over and kind of come up with a plan? Or do we want to just go ahead and leave it in and let that be part of the presentation goes to the budget committee?
I think we will have already passed the budget over to the budget committee.
Yep.
It's kind of, the documentation's gonna be behind it. If they get it and they're only gonna get a quote for 750, I'm assuming that they will cut the budget down to 7,500 or whatever they get. Because I expect a quote behind here for the budget committee.
Yep. Okay. No, it sounds good. It sounds like a good approach. Okay, so I think that takes care of Conservation Commission, unless do you have anything else for us, Lenore? Or?
No, I don't. That was, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next one is the executive. That's way up near the front, if I remember. Okay. Jump right into this.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. What was the, which one are we doing?
We're doing the executive,
Oh, sorry.
which is like it's the third tab in from the
No, I
front.
got it. I was in another place. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, 100 series.
117, and this Mary
Mhm.
DeVries is here from the chamber. I think we should have an explanation from her what she's looking for.
Yeah.
You still with us, Mary?
And this one doesn't, this ask here doesn't square with the letter, or maybe it does. When I read the letter this afternoon, it doesn't square with the letter that came in, or it does it.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer any questions. So I only have in front of me the letter that I submitted. I know that we were under this year based on trying to navigate a solution to operating under the guidelines of COVID-19 earlier in the year.
So that there we go. So we have a letter from the Wolfeboro Area Chamber of Commerce requesting $17,000, broken down by 2020 staffing of approximately 820 hours and additional staffing of $6,500. That's the 2021 request, Mary?
Correct.
Okay. And on a year-to-date basis, clearly you haven't spent that because of this little event we're going through.
Correct.
So the request therefore is a net add of $7,000 to the budget?
Yeah, so every year, this is nothing new. We strive to bring a more equitable investment between the town of Wolfeboro and the Chamber of Commerce in staffing the information center year round. So we understand it may not be the town's budget may not be able to accommodate that full request, but it gives us the opportunity to just show the investment that is made by the chamber, because we do operate it 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, but definitely year round.
Any other questions on the 100 series?
again, I think the question is going to come up with the budget committee is outcomes. What's the outcomes we're getting for the additional expense?
Brad?
Linda? Yes, Linda?
Usually what we do is take out that request, the larger for the added number of hours, and do a figure like add $1,000 to what we gave them the year before as we slowly work our way up to covering more of that time. So I would like to make a motion, and let me see if I can get the right figure here.
Add 1,000 to 10,710.
Yes. Yeah, 10,000. So I would like the figure to be $11,500.
11,500 or 11,710, Linda?
Yeah, my number is
11,710.
10,710 on this year's
I
appropriation.
went back to what their request was. I went back to their sheet, which was $10,500 was what was for the 820 hours for 2020. And I added 1,000. That's why I came up with 11,500.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
$210.
Did the budget, Mary, did the budget committee cut your amount last year? Or add to it?
I'm sorry, Linda, I didn't, you broke up a little bit.
Okay, what we had in the budget book for 2020 approved was $10,710. Was that your understanding?
Yes, that is correct. The budget committee supported the selectmen's recommendation.
Okay, so then my figure would be $11,710.
11,710.
Yep.
Yep. You're gonna make a motion to that effect?
That's my motion.
Second.
It is a motion. The motion and a second on the floor to amend the request line item for 117 to $11,710. Do we have any other discussion? Do a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
And Brad Harrell votes yes also.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on the 100 series?
Now, on the 130 line, it's a big number. Can we just get a breakdown of where those dollars go?
The 130 line?
I think it's in the back.
Where is the back?
We got
I'll
back.
look. I'll look. I tell you what, it could be me again because I'm just flying through papers. If it's not in the back, I need it. If it is in the back, I won't ask for it.
It's in the back. It's in the backup that we got today, I believe.
Can we put that on this MuniSmart page?
What it is, it's a full sheet with all the backup. Goes through every line and tells you what it is.
My point is really simple. We have people telling us how much they pay for subscriptions, what their magazine subscriptions are. And I think this ought to be just laid out clearly what's here. And if it can't be in this one, we should just make sure that it's somewhere where people can see it.
We will make that happen for the budget committee printing.
Thank you.
Okay, 200 series? $300 series?
Mr. Chairman, line 381, please.
Yeah, Paul?
Well, Linda, you go first.
I'm going to go to 320, which is legal expenses, and we've only spent 48,000. I think we have union that is going to a tick up on that. But what I see is they're going to be out with their axe on that one. And so I would like to see if we can get as much expense as we can to date. But what we have coming in 2021, if I'm correct, isn't it the negotiation of the police contract?
I actually believe that is going to be occurring in 2022.
Okay.
But I got to confirm that, but I believe it's 2022.
Jim, I agree with you.
I think that's right. Last year was year number 1.
22.
Today was year, yeah, and next year is year number 3, so it'll be, okay. So we're spent 48,000 through September, and there's probably some other bills. I think Linda's right. We ought to make sure that we don't want to spend money not unnecessarily, but just make sure we can display that we're not underspending the line if we need to not underspend it.
Anything else on the 300 series?
Yeah, I have a question on 381, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, a good news update. When and this is on the cable thing, when our dear friends Atlantic Broadband got merged by when they left being Metrocast and became Atlantic Broadband, we got a letter from them telling us, I haven't got the letter, but we got a letter from them reaffirming the merger and that the franchise fee had changed. Well, not changed, that the franchise fee was 3%, not 4%. That was an error on their part, not our part. So I read the contract and I saw their franchise fee calculation and I went back to them and said, that doesn't make sense. Our contract is 4%. So the long story short is they owe us some money from 2018 to 2019. I have no idea how much it is, but it's enough for my annual cup of coffee. So we'll be okay. We're going back up to a 4% franchise fee. That's part one. Part two, and I have a question for all of us is, and Brad, you're probably better clued in here. Wolfeboro Community TV does not have 501c3 status. And the question here is, what do we do about appropriating money to them? I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench into the works, but I just want to know, what do we do about appropriating money to a non-5013C operation? If it's okay to pass this budget and then get advice of counsel, that's one thing. I just want to know what we do here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is it appropriate
Go ahead,
for
Barry.
me?
Go ahead, Mary.
Is it okay to speak now?
Certainly, yes. You can. You're on this committee, so yeah, definitely.
Yep. So I am a member of the board, and I would just suggest that we move forward with the franchise fee request, because there will be time as you go through your budget process with the budget committee, and before any money is ever actually given to Wolfeboro Community Television, there's like a long process there. So I guess I'm just suggesting that you consider allowing the process to move forward, and if at any given time you cannot actually submit the funds, then so be it. But I would suggest that it does not have to hold it up at this time.
Yeah, just if I could respond, I was not asking to hold it up. I was asking for clarity as to how we proceed. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, my understanding of this is what I was at the time still be able to make meetings and stuff was that the ball had gotten dropped on at the accounting level a few years ago as far as getting the paperwork in to maintain the 501c3. And I know what I understood was that Timothy had been working very hard to get that caught up and talking with the IRS and everything there, and to get us back on track for that. And so obviously there's still some more paperwork that needs to be done to get for that outcome to happen. So that's kind of, what I think of it. And I agree with Mary. I think we should continue on with this as is, and get some more information as we go along here, and deal with it as if we when the time comes. Any other comments or questions?
Brad?
Yes. Oh, Linda, yes.
Oh, I agree with Paul. I think we just need to get an opinion on how we handle this. And I think that's fine, and the process can go right on. I don't see any reason to take anything out at this point, but we should have a clear written opinion on how we handle it.
Thank you, Linda.
Welcome, Paul.
Okay, 400 series.
I have a question on line 480. The same thing, it's a big number. Is there any way we can display that, or is it in the backup someplace?
Yeah, we can, I believe that I had sent out earlier last week, and we will attach it to the front of the budget report, the property liability, workers' comp, all of those insurance documents that came out from Primex. Those will be in the front of the book, but we'll try to get something into this as well.
It's just a big number. And again, it's a big number, and it's going up 9%.
I think we did get a printout that he gave us, but I think what you're having, and I'm having trouble with, is you get a whole bunch of documents today. Then you got to get them punched, and you got to figure out what they are, in which book, what section they go in. And I think we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what we have and what we don't have. And so I think if you email it out to us, it would not be nice to get it in hard copy that we can then go put in our books.
And Jim, please, with the highest amount of respect, this is a no harm, no foul thing. But I'm just trying to envisage what's going to happen when we sit down in front of our colleagues. If we can't explain it, they're going to cut it.
Well, what I've got, I went over all of it's written down by number on sheets behind. What happened is this and the explanation didn't come out together. And so that's what we're having. I have no problem with the way it's written in the back. The budget committee should be able to go through it. You look at your budget and then you go look at what the explanation if you have a question. It's all here. Nicely done. And my other comment is, this has been far better than the last two budget process. So you get a star that we're moving forward and we're doing better. But I think that was what I was having trouble today.
I agree.
One of the challenges that we've identified today is, and it was problematic previously, is version control. Where we're seeing you guys on a regular basis. I'm not sure what version of what budget you have within your books compared to what we may have. And again, these insurances were set on October 15th. This particular original budget was printed September 22nd. And then the upgrade comes to insurances. So understood, well taken, and we will certainly clean it up for budget committee time. Thank you.
But I agree with what Linda said too, because going into that sheet there with the budget backup, that line item's written right out there for the budget times the 9% equals the increase on it with the new rate. Explanation of new rate is provided in October. So you're right. If the budget committee goes through these and looks at the backup, it should all make sense to them. Okay, anything else on 400 series? 500 series?
550, we have added printing. And I think
Under the justification, we've got what, town report, voter's guide, cost and stationery, outside copying, and any other printing.
Right, so is this meaning we're going to the larger print annual report? What is causing this increase? Because we talked about going to a larger book, you know. Is that what?
I need to get clarification from Amy on that one, but I believe that that is correct, Linda.
Okay. So if that's the case, we should probably put it that we're looking for a larger town report.
Yeah, you guys had discussed that last year. It's like 2,000 more for the larger report. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I mean, I think you were thinking of checking how the one this year came out. And I think the lettering was a little bigger and was readable. So I guess that's up to you whether you want to or not. But it is like $2,000 more to go with that bigger report.
And all I'm saying here, Amy, is that when we get to the justification for the or that in that justification, we label it's the annual report for larger print. So if the budget committee decides they don't want it, they know what we were looking for here. That's all I'm saying.
Do you want to try the larger print this year, or do you want to stay the same?
Let's get thumbs up from Dave Tentacle for the larger print.
It's hard. We've made so many changes. It's hard to tell. I don't know where we are on the bottom line, because the bottom line that we had in the beginning, I think, has changed some. So
I left it in my notes from last year, but in all honesty, we didn't get any complaints about the lettering this year. So maybe we go one more year and stay the same.
Well, also, it's easy to do, but a hand magnifying glass makes everything readable, and it saves money. And I don't think everybody reads every schedule in the report anyway.
Well, and I think the other good part of it is we had it publicized up online. So when you go online, you get it in a PDF size. So I think that's why we didn't get as many complaints, because they could actually just look at it on their computer.
Well, I think we ought to try the larger print. Leave it in there. My feeling.
Yeah, my thought is the same as Dave's. I think we should try it and we see what kind of remarks and comments we get from the public after doing a large print one. Then we can kind of decide moving forward which one is more appropriate.
I'm with you, Brad.
I'm willing to leave it in and let the budget committee deal with it. My guess is it's gonna go, but you know.
Yep.
Point
Put
taken.
the explanation in.
Yeah, I think having the explanation here that the extra $2,000 is for the larger print town report. So
There's some of them on the budget
Okay.
committee should like it too.
okay, anything else on 500 series? $600 series? $800 series? Think we have enough information on the, do we have enough information, everybody think, on the 872 for Wolfeboro Waters?
Oh, we published the details of what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Well, the only thing I think you might want to put there was to say that this amount was in last year's warrant article, and it's been moved to a line item. So they know they paid for it last year. It really has just got stuck here. And I think that most of the explanation has been on the one above the milfoil. The reason we have not spent as much as we have budgeted is in 2019, we did a treatment, and we had trouble getting somebody to hand pull. This last year, we did a second treatment, and it worked so well at that point, we didn't have to hand pull. So if they didn't need it, they don't use it. But it comes back in 1 year, it can just be all over the place again. So,
Yeah. And briefly, if I could speak to the waters thing, I think Warren actually, on the assessing side, I think Warren did a good job on the assessing committee, spending his resources. Communications didn't spend anywhere near the monies because we didn't have an IT person. And then mitigation, I don't know, maybe Kathy can speak to mitigation. I think that's a new budget request, Kathy. Mic on, please. There you go. Come on, bring that mic up there. Linda, you want to?
Okay.
There you are.
So it's a new request. Sorry about that.
Kathy, did you spend any mitigation money last year?
No, I thought you didn't hear me, I guess. No, I did not. And we will this coming year.
Okay.
And when we get to budget committee, Linda and I will be there, and the two of us are teamed up on this, so we can defend our honor with our friends at the budget committee on that.
Anything else on the 800 series? Yeah, it takes care of the executive. Now we'll move on to finance.
So, Mr. Chairman, within your finance, as you're well aware, we Monday brought on a new finance director. She's diving right in and getting her feet wet. Her focus right now is working on ensuring that we land the 2020 budget in good shape to begin preparing for the 2020 audit so that we can get an audit report in a reasonable amount of time next year, and streamlining some of our operations within MuniSmart. So she's right at it already. She's fitting in with the team. It seems like it's a good fit, and we're excited to have her on board. And you should see her for your board meeting on the 4th for introduction. With that said, I will help go through this budget and answer any questions you'll have.
Okay, thank you. We'll start off with the 100 series.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bowers has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
For quite a few years, Christy and I have sponsored a Christmas party for the town. Is that going to happen this year?
We're actually having some unique discussions with the management team right now, looking at some creative solutions. And we've actually got some pretty interesting creative options from staff, and we're kind of investigating that as time permits.
So we won't look at the bistro or something then. We won't look at the North Main Street then, the barn or anything.
More to follow.
Okay, anything else on 100 series? 200 series? $300 series?
Yes, I have one. 301
Sure, Linda.
audit service. As I look at 2020, we've already overspent it and we're not finished yet. Was that because we had more work for them to do than usual, a usual audit?
Good
2000?
question. I cannot answer that question at this point. I will get more information from the auditor and from the finance director on this one, but we did get the quote from Robertson Green relative to a 2021 or a 2020 audit in 2021, and the finance director and I also discussed about working on preparing a RFP for potentially a different auditor going forward.
I think, Linda, I think we had a chat about this. I think there was some residual work that they had to do to bring last year's audit to the ground that we spent kind of in the first quarter.
Well, I just would, if that's the case, I hope the library, isn't there a separate library over it that's not stuck in this figure?
Yeah, there's $1,000 in that, and that's one of the things that threw in my mind as well.
Yeah,
yeah. And then on the other thing you mentioned, Jim, you know, how long have we had this auditor? It's over 7 years.
I would say that's probably accurate.
It's probably time. Yep. Thank you.
Anything else on 300 series? $500 series? $600 series? $700 series? An $800 series?
Can I go back to 434? That's the postage.
Certainly.
We were
434.
434. We've spent.
We don't have a force.
They're looking for 5,500, and I just want to know what drove that up. You know, I can see the calculation, but that's a big jump from where we're spending or where we have spent.
Yeah, fair question. Probably should have dove into a little more detail on that. One of the things that with COVID that really became problematic was the postage machine and the number of people utilizing the postage machine and trying to create the pods of staff. So the conversation was had, and it made a lot of sense amongst the staff to acquire a second postage machine. So that's what that is attributed to, is two postage machines rather than one, and I will add that note.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on the 800 series? Okay, next line item we got here on our agenda, agencies follow-up.
So I needed to get some clarification. I believe that the only thing that I had for an agency follow-up was end 68 hours of hunger. There was a request for their checking account balance. Do you recall anything else for agency requests or follow-ups?
No, that was I asked for their bank account. But I also have a question of whether the board wants to cut one of these requests. And my one is number 4, common action. And if you go to the backup information, and I was looking at the amount we used it, and then I went to their budget, and they have, without any money from the towns, they have a surplus of $475,913. And they are telling us that the surplus includes 5 buses, and I subtracted that amount. They have a surplus in this budget of $201 if I take out the bus. And they haven't even gotten any money from the other towns or from us. And so my feeling is we should pay them what we did last year, which is, see, that should be $9,000. I believe spending the $4,000 for the bus, and I think $5,000 for the other services that we use. We don't need any of their food program. We don't have anybody in their senior volunteer. There's a whole lot of their programs that we hardly use as a town. And so they base their calculation of increase on the number of people we have. So I think it's out of line based on the surplus they have and how it looks like we're using it.
Jim, Amy? I mean,
Did you just ask for me, Paul?
I was just wondering if there's any input from you folks.
The only thing that I'll comment on is, they proposed it to you as a combine, and it's an increase from what you had last year. And I don't know if you recall, but last year they submitted another request late to put some money towards their homeless program. And then you declined not to take it because it was late. And I think it was around $2,500. Last year, I would agreed with your decision not to accept that late. This year, I mean, they are stepping up to the plate better with the homeless situation. And I've had numerous clients now get approved for the state funding that they're managing. So I have a feeling they might be including in their increase to put some towards that homeless outreach program. But, Wolfeboro is unique and we have a lot of resources and the ability to help with it.
Paul O'Brien,
Yes.
We have taken the planning board and the zoning board $400 as corrections have.
No, but, Harry was $201 per planning board.
It is the same. So not use
So would in your adjustment,
has been processed. That should came up with this evening visits, I believe.